Blockchain is allowing technology to do things people couldn't have imagined before, but now it is unlocking huge moves forward in so many different sectors. Blockchain has the ability to increase transparency and, more important, allows you to have control over your finances and also, very importantly, your own data. Did you know that others make a fortune off your data and you haven't been? What if your data was more important than you realized? Did you know that your own medical data could also be very important? I know you might not have thought about that before, but we are joined by one of the premier projects in the decentralized science arena of blockchain. We had them on a few years ago, and it is definitely time for a good update. I want to welcome my co-host, Doctor of Stuff, who really pushed to have Genome joining us again and to get an update on what's going on with them. I know everyone's thinking about decentralized science and they're looking for those hidden gems, and what a perfect time. Dr. Stuff was actually pushing it before, or pushing for us to have him on before it hit all of a sudden, but the timing couldn't be better. Dr. Stuff, thanks for helping set this up.
Yeah, great to see you, Rain. Great to see you, Rain. I'm really excited. I've been kind of tracking the decentralized science narrative for a while, right? And it's gone back and forth. CZ back at the beginning of this year kind of talked about how he was going to be investing in decentralized science and was looking at all these projects. And so a lot of projects got some hype right then, but then it kind of died back down. And anyways, yeah, just looking at it again right before this recent pump. But CZ also talked about it again at another conference, right? And I think it's important for people to understand what it is. We see like decentralized finance, right? We have decentralized exchanges, but what is decentralized science? I think it'll be awesome to bring on the CEO of GenomesDAO, right? And really talk about what they're building and some of the potential that we have using the blockchain.
Yes, I think science sometimes could massively benefit from greater transparency. And real science wants transparency because they want things that are duplicatable, that everyone can see the processes and they can retest it. Science often gets co-opted by politics. And I think decentralized science is not only allowing greater transparency, but also this idea of we don't own our own data in a lot of sectors. And we're not benefiting from our data. A lot of big companies are, but blockchain allows us to benefit from our own data. With that said, we want to bring on the founder of the project that we're going to share with you today. We had him on 2 years ago. Hopefully you caught that. Hopefully you've been listening to Doctor of Stuff talk about this project because it got really cheap during the bear market. I still think it's a heck of a deal, but it's not as cheap as it was. But what they're doing, I want you to hear what they're doing because it's quite phenomenal, and you may not have thought about this before. Without further ado, let's welcome Aldo de Pape to the show. Thank you, Aldo.
Thank you for having me, Rain and Doctor of Stuff. It's a big honor. It's great to be back.
Yeah, so for those that are unfamiliar with what you're doing with GenomesDAO, could you share with us what it is that you're doing with data and decentralized science?
Sure. We basically see your DNA. We consider that to be the blueprint to who you are. So it's the most important piece of information you will ever have. We as human beings also all have one. We have a genomic sequence. And it's because it's the blueprint to who you are. It's very precious, and I think it's in that exact value that we've basically taken it upon ourselves to say, if it is so valuable, then please be careful with it. And that's essentially where we started our journey, because we saw that many players in the market, in the Web 2 market, so to say, direct-to-consumer genetic testing companies such as 23andMe, MyHeritage, or Ancestry.com, just to name three examples, but there are many others. They did not put the security and the privacy of such a valuable piece of information at the forefront of what they do. So our answer to that is GenomesDAO, which is the name of our company as well as our website. And we are essentially an infrastructure of virtual vaults in which you can basically vault your genomic data. And why you would vault it is because this way you ensure ownership over the data at all times, certified ownership, and it is put in a vault to which only you have the keys. So no one will ever be able to open that vault. Even we, as the builders of Genomes.io, won't have the keys to that vault. So you're the only one who can access your DNA information in its entirety. But because it is on that infrastructure, we can basically open you to kind of a wide array of things that can be read and done with your genome, and for instance, only for you. So currently we have around 40 health reports active on our infrastructure that basically reveal to you loads of things about your personal health and wellness, all the way from whether you're more likely to grow bald, to your chances for prostate cancer or psoriasis or Parkinson's or those types of things, or type 2 diabetes. There's a big health component in there that is good for you to kind of look at yourself from a genomic perspective and potentially nip things in the bud, so you're kind of ahead of things, make some life changes or dietary changes to stay a healthy individual, but also like ancestry reports or carrier status reports that we have on there as well. That's for your personal insight. And then the last bit is because we are now so many vaults, so we're very happy to say that we're now thousands and thousands of users, and they kind of have their data on our infrastructure. We've also caught the interest of loads of research organizations and pharmaceutical companies who would like to work with the data and survey the data, but because it's on our infrastructure, they need to do it by the rules of our game, which is all about transparency, security of the data, your privacy as an individual, and last but not least, also equitability. So you're able to you're compensated basically for when your data gets used for their specific research when it's for commercial purposes, and that we feel is a game changer in the market, because it hasn't been done like this before, and we're very happy to say that loads of people that are being helped right now through our infrastructure.
Yeah, I just showed from your website a good example, like an individual that maybe gets their DNA sequence with you, and then maybe GlaxoSmithKline is doing a query or a research thing, and so you might earn, say, $60 worth of funds for allowing them to use your genome sequence. So this, if you use some of the regular Web 2 companies and you send it to get, find out your ancestry, your genome is probably being sequenced there, and they are then going to sell it directly, or that information directly, to the researchers and make the money from it.
Correct.
Using genome, you're the one that's going to make the money from it, not the third party. So Ancestry, not only do they charge you for you to send your data to them, they then make massive money by using that sequence and selling it to third parties. This allows you to go a different route, and this is a new area of decentralized science that wasn't available before the blockchain. This is one of the areas that blockchain makes possible for you to have ownership. You can have it stored on their servers, but you can have gated access to allow them to use it on the research projects that you're interested in, that you then authorize, if I'm understanding correctly. Is that correct?
100%. So this is I think one of the biggest forms of injustice as we've seen it, specifically around your health and your medical data, that essentially those databases, who, Rain, you're very correct, you have paid them to sequence your data, but they score double because they can get to keep your data and become the commercial owner of your data, and that also allows them to cross-sell it to whoever they want to sell it to. And if it's not only the money, it's also the information that is gained with your data in the midst of it, right? Because the data is sold to other organizations to do research, and people are going to find out certain things about you on the basis of that information, and that doesn't come back to you, right? Because it's taken away from you essentially. So there are loads of things that we feel are unjust, and we think we can do one better through our infrastructure. So through our infrastructure, everything is recorded. If the data is used, the data never leaves the vault. So everything, when it's kind of used for research, the research takes place in a vaulted environment on our infrastructure. We've developed a very secure repeat consent protocol, meaning that if there are follow-up questions, or if people want to take a deeper dive, then for every kind of query you receive a quick a quick notification through the app saying, someone wants to query your data, are you okay with that? You always need to approve it as an individual. And best of all, kind of you receive compensation, which is made very clear beforehand, how much you can make essentially from putting your vault in the midst of that type of research.
So I have is it okay, Rain, if I jump in real quick? I just have
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I guess the first thing that I want to ask you, Aldo. So normally, if I'm trying to get my genetics or my genome sequenced, right? Like I can go to 23andMe, I apply there, but how do they do that through GenomesDAO, right? Is there an app? How do they do that? And then what's like the cost comparison, right, between doing it with 23andMe and with you guys? And then we've already talked about, and one of the reasons why I wanted Rain to talk to you guys again is Web3 is so much about ownership, right? And I just loved from the first time I came across your guys' project, love that concept of this is my health data. I should own it and I should be compensated if someone wants to use that, right? So, but anyways, if you could break it down for the people, okay, and I'm saying this because I haven't got mine done yet, and I'm getting older. I need to do it. I want to do it, and I want to see some of kind of like all like you kind of broke it down before, is like what am I more susceptible to, right? And what are like certain medications my body might absorb better or reject more, right? So there's that aspect of it. But then like you said, I love that other part of, now that I have the information for myself, there are companies that want to research that. Anyway, I have some more questions about that, but I'll let you go with that first question.
Yeah, no. So there are a couple of interesting things here. So first of all, I think there's a difference between the sequencing that a company like 23andMe does and what we do. So we go for sequencing your data on a clinical grade. And so, the standard for that's called 30x, which is the most granular that is available in the market. And it's something that is also called whole genome sequencing. So meaning that whatever we can make visible of your genome, we will do that through sequencing. What 23andMe does is they sequence your exome. And your exome is, if you just to compare, your genome is 30x and then your exome is 5x. Right? So it's less detailed. However, it still reveals loads of stuff about you, right? Being that it's less detailed doesn't mean that you cannot find loads of things in there. But that is a difference, and that is also a difference essentially in cost. Now, with the cost of sequencing coming down, and year on year, there's basically a decrease in that cost because the sequencing market is quite competitive, and the market leaders, they introduce sequencing methods at the most granular of data at the lowest cost essentially. But back in the day, the sequencing at 23andMe, you basically paid, I think you paid $150. And then I think $50 or $60 would be spent on the sequencing, whereas Our product currently is $300, right? But then you get it at a clinical grade, and then you can reveal loads more information specifically about your health. Now, we are not a lab, so we only work with preferred partners who are the laboratories that we work with essentially. So they are under contract with us to basically do the sequencing. We are very much focused on being an infrastructure that focuses on the management and the analysis of your data, so to say. So if the cost of our preferred labs come down, then our cost will come down as well. So that with regards to that.
Well, that's a drop because when we talked to you about 2 years ago, I think that the cost was around $500.
Yeah,
Right? And
it's
so now
yeah,
it's down to 300.
yeah.
And well, another quick question, just piggybacking off of what you just said. What are some of the extra things that you get with that 30x compared to the 5x? What are some of the additional pieces of information that you get from that additional sequencing?
Yeah, so it's about what kind of health reports you can really have available for you that give you insights into you. So that is kind of the own your health perspective. So you can take a deeper dive into something like cancer genomics, or any specific maybe scary ailments or diseases that we could really take a good look at. The more specific the data, the more advantageous it is also for scientific research. So it's not only for you, but also for the potential research clients, such as the previously mentioned pharmaceutical companies. They are a lot happier with clinically graded data than they are with exome data, right? So that is where on both ends it is more beneficiary. What is also good to point out is that we're really at the very beginning here of what you can find in your genomic sequence. This sector isn't this old, because the very first human genome was only sequenced in the year 2000, right? So that was 24 years ago. And then the cost of sequencing your genome at that point was around $5 billion, right? So when you mention your $500 and your $300, you can see how in 24 years this has evolved so quickly at lightning speed. And that is also a sign for us that the value, the true value of your genomic data is not in the, taking it to a lab and sequencing it, which of course is necessary, it needs to be done, but it is essentially in what you can read into data and what we can find out about ourselves as human beings. And for us as a team, not a day goes by that we don't read about the new discovery which has been done on the basis of genomic information.
Fascinating.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Well, so here's another question for you then. So do you guys send? First of all, do I need to download an app, or how do I get the process started?
Yeah, so there are loads of ways to get started, and we're very happy to say that we've introduced in September of this year something called the Billion Genomes project, which is our big, hairy, audacious goal to really turbocharge science from the world of DeSci, essentially, allowing all those people who have been victimized by databases like 23andMe, Ancestry.com, and MyHeritage to vault their data on our infrastructure free of charge. So the previously mentioned $300 or whatever, none of that applies, no cost applies. It's just for those people who have been hacked in the past, because that's also something that happened late last year, that 23andMe, essentially the market leader in the genetic testing market, they were hacked for over 50% of their databases, which is over 7 million user records were hacked and made commercially available on a dark web forum. And that caused loads of havoc and scandal, essentially, to the detriment of that company. So, the most recent news around 23andMe is that, they were a very successful publicly listed company. They now had to let go over 40% of their staff, and they're taking their shares of the market. So they're going from public to private. And they were hit with scandal after scandal. Their board publicly resigned, kind of all those things. because they did not put the security and safety of genomic data at the forefront, right? And that's why these hackers came in. That is what we feel is the most important thing here, focusing on the security of your data, and we want to offer that bit of security to those 7 million people to start with, but there are many more, to vault their data on genomes.io, so that at least they are, again, the certified owner of their own information. And then from there on, of course, give them all the benefits that we offer them, from the health reports to the ancestry reports, all the way up to the genome compensation, and all the things that are to come. So that is a way to get involved. You can get your VCF file, because that is basically the output that is generated after your data has been sequenced. You can just download your VCF file from one of those platforms and upload it to genomes.io completely for free. Or you can order a kit through our website. And when you order a kit, then basically we will send it to your home. It'll then go to one of our partner labs, depending on where you are. So we will always look for a location the nearest to you, so it doesn't have to go far. And then once it's done, it's vaulted for you. So those are the two ways.
So that's right here from the website that they can, under genomesDAO, and then they can click get sequenced. Then you can buy it from there. It has some different providers.
Correct.
Got it. Okay. Now, question. So you also have a cryptocurrency token. Am I finding? I want to make sure I've got the right one, because there's two genome ones. Is this the right one? GenomesDAO right here.
Yeah, that's us. Yeah.
Okay. So, and it's currently on. Looks like it's a contract on. What is that? What chain is that on?
Base.
It's on coin, or it's on Base. Okay, perfect.
Base and Ethereum, though, right, Aldo?
I think we're only Base, yeah. Is it?
Are you only Base now? Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
You can get on Uniswap, swapping with USD BC on Base, or you can get on the MEXC exchange, or on PancakeSwap V3 on Base. Interesting. Okay. Cool.
Yeah, so that's our token. Our token is Genome, and there's it hasn't escaped your attention either that there's of course a very big wave of DeSci, which we're very happy with. Loads of people are waking up to DeSci, and we're very excited about that prospect. And we of course hope people will check out that part of our company, right? We see the token as a utility, as an extension of all the things I've said before, right? Of the, it's a translation to the vault and to the research and everything that we try to do on the level of science, where we try to make a difference. And we feel that token is a good tool to kind of reach communities and speak to people, and for people to get involved, specifically in a decentralized world.
Yeah. When you first read the
genome token,
talk, I remember you being excited when you first discussed it with me, like 2.5 years ago. What mostly caught your attention that you're like, oh my gosh? Because back then it was, crazy times, and we were getting hit up by so many different companies all the time. And this one had you really excited. What caught your attention about it?
Well, I think that ownership of your data, right? Because my wife, she's a professor at a university, and she deals with microbiology, immunotoxicology, like a lot of these things. And she was very much into kind of like immunogene therapy. So we've had discussions, and is that out of the United States, but anyways, Ancestry.com, that's based out of Utah, I believe, as well, and that's where I'm from. And so anyways, it was something that like I hadn't kept super up to date, but like it was constantly being talked about at some point or another, right? And so when I came across this, and I was like, wow, like there's so many people that are being taken advantage of with their data in so many ways, right? I mean, thieves steal our credit card data, they steal our social security number, but like our health data, most people don't really understand the value of that. And so when they were taking the 23andMe, right, and they were just like, oh, this is great, like I get to know this about me, and they were happy to pay this. And it was like, but what they weren't being told is, oh, by the way, like that information that you just gave them, that you paid them to give you, they're keeping, and they're making a lot of money off of you. And the fact that Genomes.io can like gives that power back to the individual. That's what I just loved, and that's such like a Web3 concept, right? Of like that ownership of your data, your information, and so that really stuck out to me. But then on top of that, just how deep they go into the genetic sequencing compared to 23andMe, and that's why I was trying to ask about like, well, what's the difference? Why is it important to get this? And when Aldo's talking about, well, from a research perspective, it's more valuable to those companies, so they're willing to pay more because they're going to get more insights into that, right? When you're getting that, but then you yourself, the health benefits or like the information you get about potential health hazards that you have. You know, does your family have a history of or like you might know that your family has a history of heart attacks, but like what is that, or what about that, or what are some of the things that you should be avoiding to eat, or like all of those things. It just screamed to me as like this is such a phenomenal idea, and so that's why I wanted to get them on the channel in the first place. But what's really made me bullish too, and Aldo, I'd love you to talk about it a little bit more, right? But Deloitte, you guys got an award back in 2022, right? But like about some of the recognition that Genomes.io has gotten, right? As you guys have been pushing this idea forward.
Yeah, thanks. Well, first of all, we were interviewed by you guys, so that was a big recognition just right out of the door. So we're very happy with that, and loads of people were excited by our message, which we are of course very excited about. And if you look at it from a helicopter perspective, it is actually kind of in an extension of how um, uh, medical research or pharmaceutical research or any type of research actually works. They basically do make a distinction between you as a person and the data that you provide, right? So once you part with a urine sample or a saliva sample or a blood sample, and you give that to your doctor or kind of a nurse at the hospital, at that moment, once you've kind of have given it to someone, you are no longer the owner of that bit of information, which is very weird to me because it comes from you, right? But traditionally, what people do is they take the data away from you, and the data starts living a life of its own, right? And what we like about the decentralized world, and why we also say this is decentralized science, is that we keep the data and the person stays together, and that is essentially what our vaults do, and that's what we're so excited about. Now, why such a long intro? Because that is exactly where a company like Deloitte, what they were also excited about, because they saw the 23andMe and kind of all those things. They saw that coming of that's not the way to do it. There are too many violations here of very sensitive data, and this is taking it one bridge too far. This separation between the person and the data. So they liked it, and that's why we won the Deloitte Tech Fast 50 Challenge Award for being the best kind of innovative solution in healthcare. But there have been so many kind of rewards on our path. So we are one of a few companies in the world that can call ourselves a partner with AMD, the multi-billion-dollar chip maker, because we use their encryption technology, so tools called AMD SEVES, and on the basis of their tools we've built our software. We had Consensus coming on board as an investor already in 2019. We're part of Tachyon, which was their accelerator. So that was great. And we have great funds that have invested in us, such as Pantera Capital and Modular Capital, which are, great Web3 funds that are now on our side. And there are so many
I
more
just want
things
to
to come.
pause right there. Pantera is one of
Yeah.
the hardest VCs to get to invest in your fund, and they're one of the most successful ones. So you don't realize, you might not realize how rare it is to say Pantera is backing you.
Okay.
It's a really big deal.
Yeah, they're great guys. Yeah, yeah, we're very happy naturally, but yeah, we're very happy to be working with them. Yeah.
Yeah, they have access to whatever projects they want to invest in. They're one of the most powerful crypto VC companies, and they're very, very picky on who they invest in.
So
Yeah.
no, go ahead, and then I'll make a
No, no,
comment.
I'm very happy you say so, and I just want to say they're a great team, so we're very happy
Yeah,
with
they're
their
smart
support.
guys.
Yeah.
You're so humble about it. I mean, yeah, I like you're playing this like it's like not that big of a deal. Pantera Capital investing with you guys. I mean, that is a big deal in Web3. Like Rain said, I mean, they take that very serious. And but again, I think that just speaks to the work that you guys are doing and how interesting it is. But along the lines, Rain, when you're talking about one of the other things that really jumped out at me, there's this book called The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks, and it's a fascinating story, and it's basically about this um, African American who had this crazy cancer, and basically, like long story short, they took her tumor and were basically able to replicate it and try to work on developing things from it. Is it cancer? It's been a while since I've read this, but basically, like her family didn't get any of the money from the research that was based off of her DNA and her cells, right? That they were able to replicate that. I think it was the cells that they were able to continue to replicate, right? Because it just grew so fast, and they were able to do so many different tests and things, and a lot of science came out of that, and a lot of discoveries came out of that. And her family never got like any of the money from any of the awards or stuff that was based off of her, right? Her DNA. So that was another thing that just made me think about like, man, if this had been around back then, right? I mean, she could have made so much money off that, and so who knows what genomes everyone has, and how that could be very beneficial. There could be different things that research companies are like, geez, like with this sequence, like we want to know so much more about this individual. So like I just love that. But that was one of the things that really jumped out at me when coming across GenomesDAO for the first.
Yeah, and the book that you mentioned, it was also an eye opener. I think for loads of people. I mean, the story is of course very compelling, but also the fact, what I said earlier, that once you part with something that comes out of your body, you are no longer the owner of that. So this entire story of the family of Henrietta Lacks finding out that the cells of their grandmother in this case was just like perpetually growing, and loads of people were making lots and lots of money off it. But that wasn't an illegal thing, right?
Mhm.
That wasn't a kind of, no one said this is illegal. And I think there's a difference between what is illegal and what is not ethical, right? And I would very much like to say it's not ethical that people weren't aware that these cells belong to, in this case, their grandmother. And yeah, that was an eye opener, for me at least, that you need to be careful where you leave, a sample of yourself, because people can say, well, I'm the owner of that now, and there's the law will back the person that makes that claim, not you. So
Yeah, well, great. Aldo, we very much appreciate you coming and joining us. I hope it's not too long before you come join us again and share like some updates. I think like we're just at the early stages of what I think is going to be a massive bull run. There's a lot of things coming together, and I'll talk more about that in a different episode of the perfect storm that's coming. That the next 12 months, I think in crypto is going to be crazy, and different narratives within the blockchain space are going to get some focus. In decentralized science, I still think it's early days. This is a big area that blockchain can massively improve things for greater transparency and greater ownership. And we're seeing that with the Genomes project. So thank you, Aldo, for joining us. Doc, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I just had one quick question. I know when we spoke with you last, you used to have the Gene token and the Gnomes token, and there was different purposes for the tokens, and now we just have the Genomes token. Is the Genomes token now specifically kind of like, um, or I guess what purpose does that serve now? And then when people get paid, is it in the Genomes token? Is it in USDC, or how does that come across in the app?
Both very good questions. So yes, when we spoke 2 years ago, we launched two tokens, Gene and Gnome, and we were young and naive. So we Gene was our utility token, and then we also introduced Gnome, which was our governance token, basically for the DAO. Essentially, now we still have our DAO, and loads of community members who are kind of involved and think along. But we also noticed that essentially they don't need two different tokens. And you might know that if you introduce a token to the market, you also have the entire maintenance and marketing of kind of making sure that both these tokens work well. And essentially we are, the token is an extension of our infrastructure, of our product, that goes now to thousands of people who kind of upload their data. So we are really the infrastructure builders, not necessarily the token marketeers. So we felt that two tokens was just too much to handle on top of everything else that we needed to do. And that basically led us to very creatively merge Gene and Gnome into Genome, and use that as the kind of utility and governance token. So, and then to your second question, currently there's a point system which is active on our infrastructure, whereby that we use to incentivize you to find out more about yourself and your personal health. So whenever you kind of run a health report on your vault to find out, whether you have a specific condition, disease, or ailment, we give you points, and the more points you get, the more genome you will receive. So that is what you receive first, but then of course we will also, in case you don't have that, you can kind of get it for fiat or USDT or whatever it is that you want. What we do is we give you the genome. So that's kind of what we provide to you in our infrastructure.
I have a question, Aldo.
Yeah, sure.
So do you know, so the total supply of Genome is 1 billion tokens. Do you have a rough estimate of how many might be in circulation as of now?
I think it should be practically all of them. There's so I'm not a token expert, but I know that that's my co-founder Mark, so he knows the exact numbers of them. But I know there's 1 billion, and when I see it coming up in the community, I think around 900 million at least are in circulation. So it's the vast majority.
So most are in circulation already. All right, that's good to know.
Okay. There was one other question here from the audience, and I don't know much about the project, but it looks like from Turtle here. He says, "How do the tokenomics compare to Brian Armstrong's research coin?" And I haven't looked into that one.
Yeah.
So can you speak to that, or
sure? Yeah, we're very good friends with Research Hub, and I just want to say, while I have your platform, that kind of this DeSci bull run, we're very happy with that. And the contribution that Research Hub did, but also Molecule and VitaDAO and people like Paul Koolhaas, for instance, and Tyler Golano, and the Research Hub team, Brian Armstrong and others. That is very that is amazing kind of for DeSci. But now because you see a bull run, you also see these DeSci meme coins coming up. And I can assure you they have nothing to do with a product or DeSci. They just see an opportunity and call themselves DeSci because they just dive into the opportunity. So to anyone who wants to really get into DeSci, make sure that you are looking at something that also makes a difference in science and has a real product to speak of, rather than buying something that calls itself DeSci but has no product, just dove into the opportunity. I just wanted to raise that. Sorry. And then with regards to Research Hub, yes, there are they're great people. They are very focused on democratizing the way we publish academic research. So they are not necessarily related to any kind of genomic data. We're very focused on kind of raw DNA information, whereas Research Hub is very much focused on peer reviewing academic articles. So I've worked for 10 years in this market. It's very hard to get published. If you're a starting researcher, it's very hard to get your articles out there, but you need to get published to advance your career. If you don't have enough publications, you're not going to make it career-wise, and I can assure you, you're paid very badly either way. But because there's such a push, it's also become a bit of a snobbery market, and I think Research Hub is trying to democratize everything that's happening there, and they have a big event starting tomorrow all around academic publishing.
So one last thing, there's one question here where people are saying, hey, where can we get the token? I know that we kind of talked about it, but like full disclosure. So I purchased when it was originally Genomes at their public launch on SushiSwap. Like I bought the Genomes token. Then after the interview, I'm super bullish. I'm super bullish on this. I love projects that are actually adding value to this space. And so I bought some then, and then I just bought some more. So full disclosure, right? I own some of this token, but I don't, Rain, I don't know if you own any, but bottom line is, here's how I purchased it, right? I went on to Coinbase and I just bought some USDC. I sent that USDC on the base chain to my MetaMask wallet. And then I actually just did a swap on my MetaMask wallet. I know that you can go to different exchanges. I can't remember the name of the other exchange that you talked about. It's starts with an A, but I just swapped it on my MetaMask there, and the base chain fees are so cheap that it was no big deal. So I just went. You can go onto CoinGecko or CoinMarketCap. Aerodrome. Thank you. You can go onto CoinMarketCap and get that base token contract address, and you put that in there when you're swapping, and that's what I did, and that's how I bought some more just like a week ago or so.
Yeah, fantastic. Cool. Thank you, Aldo, for joining us. We really appreciate an update and would love to have you again soon.
Thank you so much, Rain and Dr. Hofstaf. Really appreciate you diving into GenomesDAO.
Absolutely.
Take care.
Yeah.
All
see
right.
you, everyone.
See you, everyone. Thank you for joining us, tuning in. I'm sure you see why we're excited about this project. We'll see y'all soon.